Okay, welcome to 1000 Ways to Be a Champion for Children call in edition. The phone number on here during this broadcast, if you want to participate, give me a call and we'll have a conversation. The I'm kind of where I'm reconsidering what this show should look like or what it can do or how it might be of value more than what it has been. Not that I'm in any way complaining. I have had some fascinating conversations with people on this show. I've learned much. It's been great. And I hope that what my guests and I learned together or I learned from them, others heard it and it was of value to them. So I'm hoping that was the case. But I've been rethinking this a little bit. And by the way, adverse childhood experiences is still something that I think is really, really important that we address adverse childhood experiences. And I got like a little screen share for you here. Hang on a second. Let me find it. Window. Yeah, here. So this is trauma. So remember what the purpose of this show has been is to raise awareness about adverse childhood experiences, to encourage adult survivors of childhood trauma to revisit that trauma, to, with the help of a professional, revisit that trauma so that they might feel that and heal and move on from that. And why I think that's so important. And Gabor Mate has this so beautiful about where he talks about the attachment need and the authenticity need, and basically how the the attachment is so important that if a caregiver to a child abuses that child, then the child cannot believe that there's anything wrong with the parent. It's them. They believe that themselves to be unworthy, unlovable, just not a good human being, kind of a thing. So maintaining that belief for the rest of their life is a terrible thing, right? So if we can prevent the trauma from occurring, that's great. If the trauma has occurred, readdressing that could prove to be very, very beneficial for your long-term health and well-being and just living the best life. These 7 impacts of trauma, if you think about this: disconnection from the self and loss of our gut feelings. So we lose our instinct and we lose our connection with ourself as well, right? Disconnection from others, because our shame creates walls. And so then basically we hold this shame, which doesn't belong to us. How would it belong to us if a caregiver, a physically developed, smarter person, manipulated or physically forced a little person to do something? How should that little person hold any shame for that? It makes no sense. The shame belonged to the person who did that act, right? And then trauma distorts our worldview and our view of the world in a negative way, right? We see the world as a negative place, a scary place, and being safe is super important for all of us to feel well, to be our authentic self, to enjoy life to its fullest. The wounds of trauma cause lifelong pain until addressed and healed. Okay, so this is kind of the part about, well, how do you heal that? And there are lots of great solutions, amazing solutions. A couple that we've gone through in this show that we've talked about. One is EMDR, pardon me, eye movement and desensitization and reprogramming. Super, super valuable tool and works very quickly. It initially started with PTSD people is where they developed it. And then there's another one, I can't remember it, but Lethbridge Family Services actually had a course that they were offering in this for professionals, for mental health professionals, so they could learn this technique. And it's very, very similar to the EMDR. And then trauma results in a shame-based view of the self. You feel yourself is unworthy, that there's something wrong with you, that you don't deserve things, right? And it makes it difficult to be in the present because the pain of the past is constant. So you can't enjoy this present moment, right? And this present moment is really all that we have, is this present moment, right? And so if you can get to where you can deal You can, maybe deal's not the right, you can resolve, you can come to an agreement between your current self and your little self. And there's one book that I love that they basically, that was how he framed it, is that, adult Alan goes to see little Alan, who was hurt when he was 5 years old, and picks little Alan up and gives him a hug and a kiss on the cheek and says, "Hey, buddy, you're awesome. You're going to do great. Nothing wrong with you, buddy." So that kind of a thing. So that's what the show has been about. But thinking about this more, stop the screen share. There we go. Okay. Thinking about this more, if you're thinking about upstream, how do you prevent things from happening, right? If you're thinking about that, going upstream from adverse childhood experiences is just violence by itself. Adverse childhood experiences doesn't reflect very well the trauma that a woman might be experiencing in a domestic relationship, right? And you might say, oh, well, this is very rare. It doesn't happen very often. It does. It does. Out of 100 people, if they're in a heterosexual relationship, 1/3 of them are experiencing violence. If they're in a non-binary relationship, then it's 2/3 of the people are experiencing violence in their lives. So that's huge, right? And every one of those experiences, and I'm referring it to violence that women experience at the hands of men, that the people using violence are men and the people experiencing violence are women. And that is a generalization. Yes, for sure. 95% of the time it's that way. There's an exception, but 95% of the time, that's the way it works. So if you can prevent the violence against the woman, then the child doesn't see that violence as well. Then the child has the better experience as well, because the woman, the mom has a better experience. The mom is safe, so the children could be safe. So going back further, what do we got to do? Then we got to just end the violence, right? If we can stop the violence. Nancy says trauma is a very specialized area and should be addressed by trauma. Agreed, Nancy. Do you think I'm telling people bad things? If so, I would love your correction. If you guide me, I'm not trying to make life harder for people or make it worse. I'm suggesting that if you have trauma that you experienced as a child and you're an adult, I'm encouraging you to address that. And Nancy, if you want to call in and enlighten me, I would love it. Seriously, I'm not in any way offended, and I welcome your constructive feedback. Okay, so I was saying then, the violence, if we could stop the violence from occurring to begin with, obviously it's going to make mom's life better. It's going to make the kid's life better. And those adverse childhood experiences don't even materialize, right? And I think the way to do this now, the more I've been thinking about this, there's this program called Real Talk. And it was about recognizing, and it's a great program here in Alberta, recognizing violence and then having the awareness of it and the empathy and to be able to listen and to support somebody who has experienced violence or experiencing or has experienced violence. And then further to that, that you, in addition to being able to respond to that in a non-judgmental, supportive way, in addition to be able to respond to that, that you, what am I trying to say here? That you have familiarity with resources that are out there, so that you could say, gee, you think about this. Let's say we know 100 people. So if we know 100 people in straight relationships, then a third of them, 33 of them are experiencing violence. If our friend set is people who are non-binary, then like 66 of those people are experiencing violence, right? So out of those 33 people in our lives that are experiencing violence, or the 66, depending on our friend set, then we have the ability, the comfort level to be able to say, hey, Sarah, I think you're experiencing some violence in your life, or I don't know if you're safe. I don't want to interfere in your life, but if I can help, I would like to help you stay safe. and then have awareness of where the resources are. So that was what Real Talk was about. Then I learned of Network of Neighbors, very, very similar concept. People, humans looking out for humans in their community, people looking after people in their network, people that they know that they could offer a support to, or at least be prepared if the person who's experienced violence comes forward to them, right? That Real Talk says 80% of the time when people have express that they are unsafe because of violence, that they express that they're unsafe, what happens is if they express it to an informal contact, if that informal, so a friend and acquaintance in their lives that they feel would listen to them or help them. So when they do that, if they get a negative reaction, or they get something to say, oh, well, what did you do to deserve that? Or, something to indicate that they're at fault, they're at blame, that kind of shuts down. They don't go any further than that. That's what that Real Talk said. Then there was the Network of Neighbors, really, really cool program, great program. Then there's this thing called Vega, Violence Education. Can't remember the rest of it, but it's through the Public Health Agency Canada, and they contracted with McMaster University to make this program Vega, VEGA, and it's a free course, and it's along the same lines. You learn how you identify people that are experiencing violence. You make yourself available to have a conversation in which hopefully you might be of value to them. And so that's kind of what this Vega program is about. Now as well, in Lethbridge, right here, we have this System Navigator training, and the first people are just finishing up the training on this System Navigator training. But you think about this, if you have 100 people in your network and there's 100,000 people in our community, well, we'd need about 1,000 people to be the system navigators. And what would the system navigators do? The system navigators, same like the Network of Neighbors or Real Talk or the Vega program there, same kind of a thing, have a comfort level that they could have a conversation with somebody who's experienced violence or has in the past or is now, and then offer supports. Well, actually, it's broader than that. It doesn't have, no, I'm going to stay with that. Experience violence, because there could be other things that they're having after that, as in drug addiction things, which Gabor Mate says 100% of people who have substance abuse disorders have experienced trauma in their life, 100%. So that's what he says. So people who have drug addiction, people who have poor health issues, those kind of things can all flow from violence that goes unchecked, untreated, and continues on. That was a lot. So if you have a comment, if you have a suggestion, if you have a better way that you think we could help other people be safe and have better lives, call on into me and enlighten me. 587-813-6552. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I met this Indigenous woman who is she's very, very forthcoming about her life and her experiences. And I think I'm hoping she will want to have a kind of a discussion with me this way, a stream type discussion on a regular basis where we talk about this, where she's teaching me about Indigenous ways, and hopefully then teaching you something about Indigenous ways, and especially about how folks who look like me with this color skin can be of an ally to our Indigenous brothers and sisters, how we can be a part of the healing process. So that's kind of what I wanted to kind of share with you. If you have any feedback, suggestions, thoughts that you would want to share, you could certainly call this number and you could let me know what your thoughts are. If you have a better way to make a difference in your community, I think this is like the number one best investment we could make. Think about it. We prevent somebody's potentially in a violent situation and they contact you and you listen to them, check in if they're safe, ask them how you can help them. They say, I need a place to stay. Where? Do you have your aunt, mother, blah, where's a safe place for you to stay? And then you get them to that safe place, and then the violence was avoided. And with the violence being avoided, the child never had the adverse childhood experiences. And so, and then the trajectory of mom's life, the trajectory of child's life are substantially changed. That might be wildly optimistic, but I'm okay with that. I think we can do that. Anyways, I wish to be of value to my fellow human beings who I'm on this journey with. I think we are all spiritual beings who are currently in the middle of our human journey. And I think a big part of that, maybe the sole part of that, is that we be of value, of assistance on other people that we can touch, that we can assist, that we can be involved with, to make their part of their human journey a better experience. So if you have thoughts, suggestions, like it, want to do something with that, want to support and have a better idea even, or think this is a great idea and you want to support it and prevent people from experiencing violence, contact me. I would love to work with you. Keep yourself well. Thanks much.